our lovely Kelvin Chin. Kelvin is the founder and executive director of Overcoming the Fear of Death Foundation and turningwithin.org. He has been helping people reduce the fear of dying for over 30 years. Kelvin has been teaching meditation for over 45 years. He started when he was 5 years old.
Exactly.
There. Yeah.
That's the best part of my bio so far. Okay.
There it is. Yes. You don't look over 45, so I don't know how you've been teaching meditation.
I know, right? I know. My son said, hey, you should grow this out. Now you can see like I actually have whitish, grayish hair here.
Oh, I thought you did highlights.
Yeah, normally I shave it all. You can't tell, right?
That looks very nice. Well, thank you for doing this for us, Kelvin.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my pleasure. So today we're going to talk about, what's the title? How to pick a medium who's right for you, or something like that. Is that the title?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about mediums, mediumship, and so forth. And let me just, before I get into it, let me just talk about why me? Why is this guy talking about it? So I'm talking about it from a perspective of somebody who's been to mediums in the past. So those of you who've been to mediums, I've been in that seat. I've actually did sessions with people for fee back in the 1980s when I spontaneously opened up in 1986 to the other side. It was just completely spontaneous. I wasn't looking for it. That just happened. Okay. So I'm speaking from experience, having done that kind of work for a little while, and then having been in the seat of somebody who's paying somebody, like me paying somebody else to give me a reading, and just having now just spontaneously having communications with the other side myself. That's been going on, like I said, since 1986 to present. So as you can imagine, I've thought a lot about this from a lot of different angles. So what I want to do is I'm going to outline for you first like 6 areas I'm going to talk about, 6 kind of topic areas, and then I'm going to go through each one and we'll discuss them, and I'm sure it'll stir up a bunch of questions, and then we'll have a big long Q&A at the end, okay? Because we want to go, what do we generally go, about an hour, yeah? A little over an hour, hour-ish, something like that. Okay, so first is my suggestion. When you're thinking about a medium and picking a medium, first of all, let me just say this. I don't have anything against going to see mediums. Obviously, I just told you, I've been to see mediums in the past. I don't have anything against being a medium. I just told you, I did it for a little while. I didn't call myself a medium. I called myself a spiritual counselor. I just don't like the phrase medium. It's a thing for me. But if, anybody who's watching this calls himself a medium, that's totally cool. I mean, whatever. But I called myself a spiritual counselor. So I did it. So obviously I don't have anything against any of this. So I'm looking at this, but I want to help you guys look at this from an objective level, having had a seat on all the different parts of the table there myself. So here are some of the questions that topics we're going to cover today. So I would suggest that you ask these kinds of questions to yourself beforehand. What's your objective in getting a reading? That's the first question you want to ask yourself. What's my objective? Second, what are the religious and spiritual beliefs of the medium? So research that before you go pick a medium. What are their spiritual and religious beliefs? Where can the medium get information from? We talked a little bit about that before we just started the recording. Some of us were talking about that. I'm going to get into that. Where the medium gets information from. Fourth question, how can you filter that information? What are red flags to look for? So that's the fourth one, 2 different questions, but that's the fourth category of stuff we'll talk about today. Fifth, just the candor by the mediums. How open are they? You know, and you'll see what I mean when we get to that section. And then I just have a kind of a miscellaneous sixth category, just going forward, other important things to keep in mind. So it's kind of a catch-all. We'll get into that at the end of our discussion today, okay? So first thing, what do we say? What's your objective in getting a medium? So that's the first thing I think you should ask yourself. What's my objective? Ask yourself, you know, what are you looking for? For example, are you looking for confirmation that your loved one is okay? That would make sense. You know, that's probably the most common thing. Are you looking for confirmation of your religious beliefs? In other words, you may have your own views from a religious or a cultural standpoint, whatever, about the afterlife and so forth. Are you looking for confirmation of that? Is that your objective? Or another possible objective is confirmation of your own personal experience, because maybe you've already had some experiences or glimpses of maybe maybe your son or daughter or loved one has communicated with you in some fashion and you're not sure, you know, and maybe you're looking for some confirmation of some personal experience that you may have had. So let me explain to you what I mean by this. So the next one is, again, we're talking about what's your objective in getting a medium. The accurate answer regardless of the above. What do I mean by that? In other words, regardless of what your belief is, or the spirit, or the spiritual medium's beliefs are you looking for like an accurate answer? Because you see, a lot of people are looking just for confirmation, and they don't really care so much whether the answer is accurate or not, as long as it makes them feel better. All right. So I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's another objective, is accuracy. Okay. Because what does that mean? That means that if you're looking for accuracy, that you might get an answer you don't want to hear, you know, like but it's an accurate answer, you know, depending on what the question is and so forth. So how open are you, I guess, is a way of saying the same thing. Okay. How open are you? How receptive are you? And I think it's a good thing to kind of go through this exercise of asking yourself these simple questions before you go, you know, rather than just kind of walk in like, whoa, you know. I think it's good to have a general objective. Now, might you get surprised by stuff that the medium says, even if you have an objective? Of course, because nothing is you know, but I think it's a good idea to go in with some thinking beforehand, before you see the medium. Another suggestion I have, and these are just all suggestions, right? I don't have the right answer for each of you, but you're all unique. We're all unique individuals. We're all figuring this out ourselves, but these are suggestions based on, like I said, my having sat in the seat of giving sessions for people and receiving myself. My suggestion is you go fairly as an empty vessel. That's my suggestion. You go as an empty vessel, meaning, segueing from that last point I just made, to be relatively open and receptive to whatever you may hear.
Take me back to my house, please.
In other words,
Jake, but I have to make sure my dad's okay.
I would not telegraph to them exactly what you want to hear. That's kind of a flip side of what I mean by going as an empty vessel. Don't go, you know, kind of be open, but also don't go in and say, hey, this is what I want, because I don't want to say you're testing them, but you don't want to be planting stuff in their head where it kind of interferes with them receiving information that may be helpful for you. All right. So if you already kind of know, why are you seeing the medium in the first place? You know, is it just for confirmation of what you already know? You're not going to get your money's worth then, in my opinion. All right. Does that make sense? So we can come back to any of those, you know, in the Q&A if you want. So going on to the second category, what are the religious and spiritual beliefs of the medium? All right. Why is that even important to ask? Well, here's the reason, is because, you know, they have religious views, they have spiritual views, or however you want to call it, they have their own belief system. It's important for you to understand, as the recipient of their information, what their filter is. How are they filtering the information? And so, do you want somebody who's filtering it in this way or this way or this way? That's a decision between you and yourself to decide whether or not, you know, do you want somebody who just is open and not kind of married up to linked up to a specific belief system? Do you want somebody more open, or do you want somebody who's linked up to a specific belief system? So again, like I said, that's between you and yourself. But important, I think, is for you to decide that, and then decide, does it fit? Whatever their belief system is, does it fit with how you are viewing the universe, right? In this case, the afterlife and so forth, the death and dying situation. For example, does the medium make the afterlife sound in a Christian way? And that may make you feel more comfortable, and that's fine. But understand that my experience on the other side is that there is no, I mean, there are people who are Christian on the other side who have Christian beliefs. But what I'm saying is, my experience is the Judeo-Christian, so the Jewish, the Christian, the Islamic, and the Vedic spiritual underpinnings, the fundamentals, the sources of those are it's all from the same team of spiritual leaders who came up with these religions that you and I know on planet Earth as the Judeo, you know, the Jewish religion, the Christian religion, the Vedic is, those of you who don't know, that Vedic is India, and Buddhism is an offshoot of the Vedic tradition. So you can put them all, you know, Buddhism and Vedic in the same bucket, and Islamic. So the spiritual leaders who came up with the underpinning ideas of each of those different religions they're all been working together for at least the 10,000 years that I'm aware of in terms of my communications with them. I say that to you only, both for educational purposes, but also mainly in terms of what we're talking about today, in terms of mediums and so forth, is that if you get a medium that says there is only one religion and it's the Christian religion or whatever, there's only one, and you get a medium that's like, no, it's Judaism is really a Christianity is really kind of, you can talk about, but you know, if they're denigrating is what I'm saying, any other religions and saying it's their way or the highway, that's a red flag. Okay, that's a red flag, because there's not any one religion in the afterlife. There are many religions. Now, again, if you feel personally more comfortable with somebody who's looking at things through a Christian lens, I'm saying that's okay, because you need to be comfortable. That's the bottom line. But if you're looking at it from an accuracy standpoint, or you know, just kind of a more neutral, we'll just say a more neutral standpoint, a non-religious standpoint, then understand that's a red flag if you're coming at it from a non-religious, just a more open spiritual standpoint. If the medium, the spiritual medium, is only looking at it through that narrow lens of their religious beliefs. Okay, so it's just a point of information to look for, again, because what's the title of what we're talking about is how to pick a medium that's right for you, right? That's what we're talking about. Just a reminder. Okay. What about this idea that Anne Marie mentioned before we started the recording? She was talking about that some people had asked, where can the medium get information from? Are they getting information from reading my mind, or what? So let me just break it down to you. Basically, there's 4 different sources. There may be more that I've forgotten here, but there's 4 basic sources of information that the medium can be getting information from. So the medium could be getting information from another mind, in other words, not yours and not theirs, but another mind on on the other side or whatever. Okay, that's one potential source. Another potential source is reading your mind. That could be a source of information, so that they could be just psychically connecting to what you're thinking. Um, a third category is what I just generally sometimes refer to as the superhighway of information. So it's just like a place, maybe too strong a word. We don't really have a word in English for this, but there's a plane of energy, we'll just call it, that exists in the universe where all of experience and data exist. It's not a conscious thing. It doesn't have consciousness. It's not a being or something. It's more like it's more like an energetic library. You think about it like that. Like library is full of information, but it's not, libraries aren't consciously aware. They're not self-aware, right? But this is collection of everything, experiential and data and so forth, of all kinds of data. So I call it a superhighway of information. The medium could be tapping into that too. Some of you may have had experiences like this already in your life, where you go like, I just knew that. How did I know that? That kind of thing. That's where you're getting it from. I'm just giving it a term. I just call it superhighway of information. It exists. It's not consciously aware. It's not a being or a mind or anything like that. Okay. But it's just a database that exists on some energy plane. So that's the third possibility. The fourth possible source that a medium could be getting information from is obviously their own mind. So they could be making something up or perceiving something that's actually within their mind, and then they're giving that information to you. So how do you filter this? How do you filter this information? And then what are red flags to watch out for? So let me tell you a story, true story, that I experienced. I don't want to name names. I'm not going to. Well, I don't even know names. I don't remember their names. But this experience happened when I was in Florida, in Sarasota, at Spirit University, and I was invited to speak there at Spirit University. I don't know, maybe some of you have been there or lived near there or whatever. But there's a place called Spirit University. It's not a real university in the way that you think of universities. It's not an accredited institution of higher education or something like that. It's just a two-story building, and they call it, figuratively speaking, Spirit University, because they teach spiritual stuff there. Well, they asked me to speak there because I found out after the fact, they asked me to speak there because, as you guys already know from talking to me, I have this, a kind of diverse, different view of spirituality based on my experiences and talking with folks on the other side for many, many decades now and so forth. Well, they wanted kind of a different approach. So they contacted me and said, hey, would you come down here for the weekend and teach a bunch of classes? So I did that. What I found out when I got there is they literally, not figuratively. So I was downstairs in the big, conference room. Upstairs, they have a small conference room, and they have another smaller room, literally, not figuratively, with about 8 or 10 crystal balls, just like in the movies. Okay, crystal ball sitting on the tables, and so they do crystal ball readings, I guess. I didn't know that. Before I got there. Well, okay, fast forward to the Sunday of the weekend that I'm there, and they have a church service. They have a non-denominational church service, which is fine, which is cool. And they asked me to come and sit in on that and say a few words and so forth about the classes that I was teaching. That was all. But there was these other psychic mediums who were leading this church service. And there were a number of them in this group of about probably 100 people. So it was a good crowd, 100 people in this in the auditorium there, and the lecture hall. And what they did was the mediums started taking turns, and they would get up. So here's a red flag for you. You know, they got up and they say, I'm getting a Robert here. Is there a Robert here? And then somebody would say, yeah. And then, did you have a wife who died recently? Da, 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 da. And he said, no, I didn't have a wife who died. He said, well, there's a Robert here somewhere. Robert. And then go down the is your name? No, I'm not Robert. He said, no, you had somebody die in your life? No. And then, so they're fishing. Okay. That's a red flag. And then they go, and then it was like, and then somebody raises her hand and she goes, my name, obviously my name's not Robert, but my cousin Robert died or something like that, and he goes, that's what it is. Your cousin Robert, your cousin named he's the one who died. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what it is. And blah, blah, blah. And he starts telling me and then giving some general advice, so forth. Those are kind of red flags. Now, some of you may be shaking your heads, but that actually goes on. And I'm just saying, those are red flags. Did someone lose a husband? He's telling me he misses you. Well, okay. Well, that wouldn't be surprising, right? That your husband's saying that. So I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying these are red flags just to put your antenna up, to be a little bit more cautious and a little bit more discerning. What do I mean by that? Just scrutinize what they're saying, because it may be that they are communicating with your dead husband, and it may be that your dead husband is saying that to them. I'm not saying he's not for sure, but watch for fishing expeditions. Since I saw that it was 3 or 4 different psychics got up within about 20-minute period during this church service, and they all did the same thing. Is there a third-party corroboration from something outside, from a potential source outside, that you can kind of that gives you some sort of ability to somewhat verify the credibility of what you've been told? Okay, so for example, this happened to a friend of mine where he had a dream, and one of his high school classmates, and he graduated his high school, let's say 40 years before he had this experience. Okay, so one of his high school classmates comes to him in his dream, and in the dream comes to him and sees and shows herself at the high school that they went to high school together, let's say 30 or 40 years earlier, and she doesn't want to leave this doorway. She's standing in the doorway, communicating with him, pointing to her sister, who's standing in front of this high school. This is in his dream, okay? Standing in front of the high school, in front of a table, talking to about 6 or 8 people. In front of the high school. All right, outside the high school. So she's telling him, asking him, his classmate, who is in the doorway of the high school, doesn't want to leave the doorway, can you communicate with my sister and tell her I'm okay? So again, my friend George hasn't talked to that classmate for 30, 40 years or whatever, and then did not know that she had MS. And so he calls his mother up. This happened to him. He was in Germany, working in Germany at the time. He grew up in Wisconsin. So he calls his mother up in Wisconsin. He says, Mom, are this family still in the, in the town, in the city? And she goes, yeah, I know, they're still around. No. Can you get the sister to call me, blah, blah, blah. So he gives the message to the younger sister. He finds out that the older sister had MS. This was long after high school, right? Had developed MS to the point where she could not communicate anymore. She couldn't communicate with the family, and she died. And she wanted to let her younger sister and the family know that she was okay. Okay, even because she couldn't communicate in real life, earth life. Okay, she couldn't communicate anymore physically, etc., with her eyes or anything else. Okay, and so my friend said, she also showed me he's talking to the younger sister. You were outside of the high school giving a talk behind this table, about 6 or 8 people. She said, when did you have this dream? And he said, well, I had this dream on such and such a date at such and such a time. And because of the time zone, he was in Germany and he's talking to the younger sister in Wisconsin. It was exactly at that time, earlier that, whatever that evening was, where the younger sister was standing in front of a table giving a talk to about 6 or 8 people at the high school. Some kind of volunteer parenting. I don't know what it was. I can't remember the details. But these are examples. I'm just giving you this as an example of external corroboration type stuff that you can verify these experiences that you may have or that a psychic or a medium may tell you. Okay? Yep. You look for these external kind of things where you can kind of corroborate the stuff. All right? That you wouldn't otherwise know. Here's another point. Who are they talking with? Who are they getting the information from? So, for example, in what is I think it's still referred to this sometimes, but I think you know what I'm talking about. The idea of channeling. When they're channeling an entity, and the entity's giving you information, whether the entity is a dead loved one or whether it's an angel or who knows what. A light being. Sometimes it's just very vague, or sometimes they have specific names. Okay, on the other side, I'm talking about. So what you want to look for there is, does who they claim they are channeling, in other words, their source of information, do they say things that are inconsistent, or do they say things that are consistent? For example, I'm not going to name names here, but somebody who's a fairly well-known person in the spiritual community, we'll just say, says that she gets information from this certain entity. And again, I'm not going to name names. I don't want people to connect the dots here, because I'm respectful about this, and I just want to be teaching you guys, okay, what to look for. But she's channeling this entity X, okay, he has a name, and he claimed at one point to her that, oh, I was wrong about such and such, and the reason is because I don't understand about 2020. This was last year, 2020, because it's so crazy in 2020 on Earth now, and I haven't been incarnated on planet Earth for 100 years, or 150 years, or whatever it was, and things have changed so much and gotten so much worse now in 2020 than they were back then when I was on planet Earth. Okay, so you look for red flags like that, because that's factually not accurate. 100, 150 years ago, things in planet Earth, he was talking about in America in particular, are much worse back then than they are now. It's just, the fact that CNN and all these, 24/7 networks, they're all on all the time, MSNBC and Fox and everybody, we get this sense that things are much worse here in 2020 or 2021 now than they were 100 years ago, 150 years ago. It's not factually accurate. So this is a red flag that clearly either he who's channeling this to this medium doesn't know what he's talking about with regards to that little factoid, or it's coming from her. Either way, it's not accurate. Okay? So I'm just giving you these it's like these examples of stuff to look for. Again, that falls into the consistency. Is it factually accurate? Is it consistent, or is it inconsistent? Okay. Here's under this candor. This is now I'm into category 5 of what I told you I was going to lay out, how I was going to structure our talk today. Candor by the medium. Do they always connect with your loved one or whoever else you're trying to connect with? Are they 100% able always to connect? Because my experience, and again, I'm just filtering this through my experience, so you can shelve this if you don't believe this, and blah, 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 blah. You've heard me say this in my previous couple of sessions I've had with you guys. Do not blindly follow everything that Kelvin Chin says either. I'm filtering it through my filter, all right? So question. But my experience is that beings on the other side are not always readily available to us. They're off doing stuff. It's just, you remember me on a previous, like not this session, but another session, I said to you guys once, I said, there's less difference between this side and the other side than people realize. Yeah, there's obviously difference. We don't have a physical, biological body, all that kind of stuff. We're a light being and there's all this light and energy. And yes, and we can travel like incredibly fast. There's all kinds of differences. But when I say there's less difference, this is an example where, it's like, look, my kids live a half an hour from me and I text them or whatever. Sometimes they don't text me back right away because why? They're busy. They're doing stuff. Maybe a half an hour or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 hours later before I hear from them. It's no different on the other side. So if the medium is always like, really, there they are, boom, 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 maybe your loved one is kind of teeing up and kind of, I got to get ready and kind of tunes into that. So I'm not saying that's absolute. There's no absolute rules here, but it could be, again, these are just flags to look at. Just red flags, okay? Also, does the medium profess to be able to tell the future? Absolutely. Do they tell you something that they predict something and you say, well, is that you sure that? You say, oh yeah, that's definitely going to happen. Well, because that's a red flag, because we live in a free will universe, and free will means it's not just your choices that are at play, it's a billion other people's choices that are at play. Now, granted, many of those people's choices are very, very, very remotely influencing you, but there are dozens at least, maybe hundreds probably, of people whose whose choices are influencing you more strongly than the people on the other side of the planet you don't even know, okay? So there's always room for other things to kind of slip in and happen that makes predictions not absolutely accurate, okay? So, all right. So again, going forward, should you see a medium? Sure, if you want to. This is not to say that you should not see a medium. I'm just issue spotting to raise questions that you want to ask yourself and then think about as you assess whether or not what you got is valuable and useful information for you, okay? But should you see a medium? I'm not here to say not yes or no on that. That's between you and yourself. But assess, think about it. Like I said, in all these previous categories of discussion today, think about it and assess before you just go. Should you try instead to connect on your own? What about that idea? Sure, you could try to do that. And there are people, I think you guys have sometimes people come and do they teach classes or something? It may be helpful for you to learn through somebody who knows what they're talking about, to kind of open you up to yourself in that way. I'm a big believer on doing it on your own. It's saving thousands of dollars for yourself too. Because the other reason of opening up and doing it on your own is then you're taking another filter out of the equation, right? Taking another filter out of the equation. And then another point is, in terms of this going forward category of discussion right now, is just to seriously, I mean this, watch out for addiction issues. I know that can happen, especially when you lose a loved one or child who you're so close with, and it's so sudden that they may have died and so forth. Seriously, watch out for getting addicted to going to see mediums over and over and over again to ask them for about every little thing. Because here's my last point I'm going to leave you with before we open up to questions and answers, is that we are all here really to live in the present. Yes, factually, it's accurate. We're all living in the continual present, whether we want to or not. We're all physically, emotionally, and mentally in the continual present. Emotionally, not always though. So that's what I'm just reminding us, that we want to be emotionally in the present as well. Sometimes emotionally we get a little ahead of ourselves, don't we? And then that's like beyond, I call it beyond the imagination horizon. That's what I call the future. You know, well, if emotionally we get out way ahead of our skis, so to speak, then that's when we can stumble and fall, and it can increase our suffering. And so, you know, I'm all about helping people reduce our suffering in life as much as possible, and living in the present is important. And as difficult as it may sound, especially for those of you who may have lost your child recently, we do need to move forward with our lives, because the reality is they're on the other side moving forward with their life. They're not dead, they're still alive. And as sad as they are and you are for them not being here now with you in the what I call the continual present here, they have a continual present on the other side that they're moving forward in their life with, and so forth and so on. And so it's difficult and it's traumatic, and I get it, and it's terrible. And, you know, I have memories of one lifetime, lost 9 children in that lifetime. 9 of the 15 children died before they were 10 years old. This was 2,000 years ago, almost 2,000 years ago. And so it's a horrific experience. But, you know, you know, you may have even heard this message. I know some of you have told me that you have. That's how I know this. From your children who have died, and they've told you, Mom, Dad, you need to live your life. You need to live your life. I miss you too. And you need to live your life here on earth for however long you're here. And then I'll see you on the other side. But it's the living in the present message. Is this I want to impart, leave this, this part of our discussion with living in the present as much as is possible, and as difficult as it can be, especially when you lose a loved one. Okay, so open up for questions.
Does anybody have any questions? I know, oh, Carol's raising her hand. Okay, let me unmute you. Carol, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, I have a question. Last week, I, for the first time, seen a spirit drawer, and he draws on a blank.
Oh, drawer. Okay.
Yes, he draws on a blank canvas, supposedly of our loved ones. Well, when I came on, and I've never seen him before, I came on and he drew me, and I didn't say anything. But when it was over, I texted him and I said, "You drew me. Why?" I said, "Is something going to happen to me?" And he said, "Nope." He said, "It was your mother." I said, "That's not my mother, that's me." So he said, "Don't worry about it. You're going nowhere." I said, "Okay." So tonight he had another meeting, but not a Zoom, so he couldn't see me. So I just said hi. He acknowledged me. He said hi, and then he was drawing on a picture of a man with a shirt on.
Now, are there other people on here with you, Carol?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. There's a group of people.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And he started drawing on this man's shirt, and again he drew me. I'm not going to ask him why he did it again, but why is he drawing me?
Who knows? There could be a million answers to that question.
I'll tell you the reason I think he's drawing me.
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
I think because he's liking my pictures on my Facebook. He's a married man. That means shit to me.
Oh, so he knows who you are separate from this Zoom meeting.
Only because I met. First time I seen him was in the Zoom meeting, so he must have seen my picture. He's drawing me to a T. So
Yeah.
It makes me think that, all right, I'm going to Florida soon. Am I going to die in a car accident? Am I going to die? I'm not scared to die, but I want to know why this creep is drawing me.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the creep likes you, to use your term.
Twice. I know that. I feel it in my gut that this man is drawing me, so I will write back to him tonight and say, how come you drew me again? But I'm not feeding into his little game.
I agree with the boundary. I think that's a wise boundary. Yeah.
Right. That's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't cuckoo. I'm not dying. I ain't done.
I don't think you're the cuckoo person in
No,
the
I'm
duet here.
No.
It's like, I think
It's
that,
just a curse that I'm so pretty, I guess.
yeah, whatever it is, something, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, don't start drawing me or calling me, okay?
I got it. Duly noted.
He knows you're a sexy mama with boots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, here's the thing, Carol. Here's the good news, Carol, is that if I tried to draw you, you would not be able to recognize what the heck is that hen scratching. So don't worry.
Well, he said he just started drawing 5 years ago. That's bullshit. He's an artist.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly.
He's an
So
artist.
those are red flags. Those are
Oh,
like
I got those flags as soon as I saw my face the first time I got my flags tonight. That sucker was waving really high.
exactly. Carol, I want to empower you by telling you that there was no need for you to ask me that question
I
because you
know.
knew all the answers. I'm happy to
did.
give you reinforcement. But
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Well, the scary thing is this man has lots and lots and lots of followers,
He does?
and he does readings.
Oh,
And
really?
then to do something like that takes
Oh,
his
that-
credibility right down the
That's
toilet.
inappropriate. That's really inappropriate, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
like, that's you go to a doctor who does something inappropriate, you change doctors. You know what I mean? It's just like it's inappropriate. You report
Yeah.
it to the local medic, whatever the association is. But in this case, yeah, I would just I don't know. I seriously would consider blocking the guy. I mean, I'm not joking. Social media, you got to be smart about it. Okay, especially you women. I don't know if I've said this to you guys before, but I have past life memories so I have this is my current thing, this lifetime. I have a personality thing, in other words, that transverses many, many lifetimes of protecting women and children. I have this women and children thing, and it really upsets me when I hear about women being abused or children being abused or treated not right. And so I'm serious. You should consider that, you know?
Yeah.
You want to be careful with people like that. I'm serious.
I'm gonna block him.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
care if they're psychic, this and that and the other thing. It's actually even more so. Even
Yeah.
if he is a bona fide psychic, all the more reason to block,
Right. It makes it worse if they're spiritually counseling people.
Yes. Yeah. Not only that, but if they have psychic abilities, it's like, here's the other thing I'm going to tell you, Carol. It's good for everybody to hear. It's like putting up a psychic boundary is not something that does not necessarily involve a lot of effort. People will talk about, I got to put this light around my, white light around me, a bubble around me. I got to go out of the house now. I got to put my white light or keep me from getting COVID, whatever. It's like, no, it's like, it doesn't require that much effort. It's just an intent. It's just a simple intent. Our energy is all intentional. Okay. So all you got to do is make it clear that I don't want to have anything to do with this guy anymore.
Right.
And if he goes knocking on your psychic door, there's this wall there, okay? An energetic wall already, because you just made it clear. But the clearer you are on that, the more secure, we'll just call it, your what I'm just referring to as your boundary, your psychic wall is, okay? Because we are all sovereign entities. The analogy that I use is we're like castles. Each of us is like a castle, and we all have a moat around it. You know what a moat is? Like the water, like, and so I've told this to some of my classes. I've had women say, and I got alligators in my moat. I said, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's great. But we all have a moat around it. And then we have a drawbridge, and we can let people across the drawbridge or not. We're in control. That's what I mean when I say we are sovereign entities. Sovereign means we're in control. Okay. And so we can pull up the drawbridge anytime we want. And that not just from a physical, not letting them into our lives, but emotionally not letting them into our lives too. Okay. And it doesn't mean that we can't communicate with people who we are not letting across the moat. We can still communicate with them, talk to them from the top of the wall in the castle analogously. Still communicate with them, but we're not letting them all the way in. Okay. That's the analogy. The boundaries are spiritually important with certain people. It does not mean that you're not a loving person or you're not spiritual. That's a conflation. That's a confusion that a lot of people spiritually have. No, boundaries are important in certain situations. It's just smart. That's all it is. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have another question? You can just unmute yourself if you do.
I do. It's Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. So I just wanted him to go a little bit deeper into like the mind reading, because sometimes I do feel like maybe some of the mediums can read your mind. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, many of them probably can. Yeah. So what's your concern? Ask me the specific about, because yes, they can read your, many of them could read your mind. Yeah. But that's
Like,
not necessarily a bad thing, but it could be. Go ahead. Ask me a question.
well, like, how can we kind of tell if they're reading our mind? Like, what are some signs that we can kind of...
So let me ask you a question, Laura. So what's your concern? What's the concern that you have if they are reading your mind?
Well, then they're not, I don't know. I feel like then they're not really sending me a message from my loved one.
Oh, yeah, okay. I understand. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then obviously some of them charge a lot.
Yeah.
You've seen some charge $500 an hour.
Wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's like, that's my old law firm lawyer did. I never charged. I mean, it was like some of the other guys I work for charge that. Like, wow, yeah.
I mean, they're pretty good. The ones that charge like 300, 500, they seem really good, and
yeah,
they don't seem to be guessing around. But there's still some that charge like 200. And
sure.
I had an experience last week where I felt like she wasn't bad, but I was like, is she reading my mind?
Right. See, that's for you. You need to assess that, okay? And I mean that in a really genuine way. You need to think about that, and you need to judge. Judging is not bad. This is another spiritually confusing point for many people. It's important to judge people and to discern, like to judge their behavior. It's not good to be judgy about a person's spiritual development or something. We can't do that. I mean, that's a waste of time. All right. And I can't judge other people. I'm barely good at figuring myself out. So I got to judge other people, but their behavior. Yes, absolutely. Their behavior. So in this case, we're talking about that person's behavior and their information. So you need to judge that, if it makes sense to you. And if you think that, no, I would go with that. I would trust that in yourself.
Like our intuition. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's important to trust that. Now, it's always good to assess our intuition alongside our analytical, rational, common sense part of our mind. But they can go hand in hand. They're not mutually exclusive. They don't cancel each other out, in other words, right? So rational mind along with intuition, okay? I use both all the time, okay? And so if you're not sure, if you have a little inkling about, I don't know, I don't think so, then I would go with that, if you're feeling that about that psychic. Now, here's the other thing, is that maybe that psychic was just off that day. You may have gotten good readings from a psychic prior to, I don't know about this particular psychic, but I'm just using this hypothetically, okay? Maybe you got readings from the psychic at other time, and then that time it's just off because, like I said, maybe your loved one is off literally at the beach or climbing a mountain on the other side. I'm not joking. Yeah. I'm serious, because that's what they're doing, and they're not available to the psychic. And that's where I talked to you guys earlier today about the candor of the medium, because I've told people at time, this was decades ago, and I don't do this anymore, but I'd say, I'm just not getting a lot,
Yeah.
They're getting their money back. I didn't take their money. It's like they're paying me for what? Right? So, but not. I don't think a lot of mediums do that. But but that's the kind of medium to me. That's like an honest one, right? That's candor. Okay, am I not getting stuff? Then let me know. and then let's see if we can get stuff from somebody else or something else that's useful for you. Maybe I can use your time. That's what I did with people, you know. So, but that's
Mhm.
me, you know. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Does someone else have a question?
I do. I was letting everybody else talk first, and I was going to be last.
Well, go ahead, and then I'll go after you.
Oh, okay. You're so smart, Kelvin. So, do you think that, for example, my daughter passed away 8 years ago, Elisa.
Mm.
Do you think that when she actually doesn't come through, that she dislikes the medium? Can they do that?
I don't know, but she's here right now and she's listening to you. I just got this. She says, I'm here right now. I'm listening to my mom. What did you say?
Wow.
I don't even remember what you said. What did you say?
Yeah, I know. I just, sorry. Is it possible that like my daughter, that she might not like a specific medium and she just, because she wouldn't come through at first, then she kind of opened up.
Mm.
Do you think they can dislike a certain medium? Or they're busy?
Or they could be shy. They could be shy too.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Seriously.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have another one, but
yeah.
I love you, Elisa. So she's there.
Yeah. She's listening to you. But she could be shy. And it's just like, it doesn't mean that she's not there. It just means it doesn't feel like, I don't have a lot to say or whatever. You know, it's like, you got to think about their personalities. Their personalities doesn't change all of a sudden. They're on the other side. Well, now I'm going to communicate with everybody on the other side now. You know, it's like, that's not the way people roll. Their personalities are pretty much rolling along pretty much very similar, you know? And then some of them who are just like busy all the time, they are busy on the other side and they're just not available either. Sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Of different reasons.
I know. I have another one.
Shyness could be part of it, you know?
Yeah. She did seem kind of shy at first, but when she knows people, then she just wouldn't be quiet forever, you know, but okay.
Yeah.
Now, if my mom passed away last year and her English was limited. So once they cross over, can they communicate in any language? I mean, can she be fluent in English now?
Yeah, see, the thing is, it's like they communicate mental telepathy, so it gets translated into the language of whoever is picking that up. It doesn't really matter. The language is not the issue. Right?
Okay.
It's the communication of whatever. It's the communication that happens regardless of the language. So it's getting mental telepathy. It's not like verbal. Oh, like the pronunciation. That's physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. It just crossed my mind, and I'm like, okay, I have to write it down. I have to ask them.
Yeah.
But okay. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Next. Anne-Marie.
Well, Melanie, do you have a question?
Well, I do. It's kind of a weird question, and I haven't really had anybody to ask.
I'm good with weird questions. Go ahead.
You can ask anything.
Excellent. So I've never really had any experiences of my own that I've noticed. But I remember I was actually at a mediumship class down in San Diego with a woman that my stepmom's really close with, and she travels everywhere and she does it a lot. And so I went to a couple classes with her, and she has someone that she channels. And a very small backstory. Somebody had posted on a Facebook, I think it was this one, about practicing your eyes to see auras. And it was a long time ago. It was like a year ago, and I'd been practicing just for no reason, and nothing ever happened. And I don't know why I did it. And I just did it. When I was there and I saw her channeling, I saw an aura. it was this vibrant blue or purple. It was like it was amazing. And I'm looking around to see if anybody else is in shock, and nobody else was. And I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything, but and it's the only time I've ever seen an aura. But it was such an amazing experience, but I don't even know what that means. I mean, I don't know what to do with that information. And I've tried to see it at other times, and I've never been able to. And it was probably just because she was channeling. I don't know, because it was so strong, maybe. But that was crazy. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And so I didn't know is that normal? Do people, I don't know if you practice, can anybody see auras?
Here's the thing. The possibility exists for anybody. What's the probability? The probability is different for different people. And it's all made up of that. It's all due to that makeup of that particular person. Some people are more visual, blah, blah, blah. And some people energetically, I mean, just a lot of different factors involved here. There's no predicting any of this. And so, so that's one part of your answer to Craig's question. In terms of your experience of this, you may have that experience again. You may never have the experience again.
No.
But what's more important to me, I would say to you, is I suggest that you look at it in terms of your ability. What does it say to you about yourself? What does that experience? How does that inform you more about who you are? And so immediately, just you can think of specifics of it, but I just could tell you some generalities that are obvious.
Please.
It immediately, what's it tell you? It tells you that you have, whether you can ever have that experience or not, you've had the experience, and therefore it tells you that you have an ability that's beyond what you've normally considered normal for you.
Right.
And so what does that do? That informs you something about yourself from which foundationally you could potentially expand on, and whether it's that experience or other experiences. That's what, to me, that's the huge takeaway immediately for you. That's very obvious. Okay. And so, because I always like to look at any experience, doesn't matter what the experience is, how does that inform me more about who I am? Because our individual lives, Melanie, your life is about you. My life is about me. Anne Marie's life is about her. We all have individual lives, and we're all on an eternal journey we call life. And we're all figuring things out in our own way, at our own pace, et cetera. And so that experience, I would embrace that experience if I were you, and then not worry about whether you're going to ever have it again, and then just embrace it for what it tells you about yourself. That's the important thing. And the why it happened, because that woman was channeling, and maybe the energy, who knows? We can conjecture about all that kind of stuff. That's like interesting. It's like, oh, it's kind of a curiosity to kind of conjecture about. But what's really most important is the intimate self-knowledge that can derive from that experience. That's where the rubber meets the road, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Right. The big part, I think, for me was just, it was a confirmation for me, you know, and it was, just, and about, being able to have that experience and not seeing anybody else having that experience. It was mind blowing, and I didn't really have anybody to share with. It was, that's cool. And I didn't know what to do with it. It was a couple years ago. And so, it was pretty awesome.
That's what I would do with it, and then see where that takes you.
Yeah.
We're on a journey, right?
Right.
So we just see where that takes you, and
have fun with it.
Yeah. Who knows? And I mean, I don't see colors, for example. I see vibration. I see light. I see. So everybody is different, Now, am I averse to seeing color? No, I'm open to the possibility. And I'm looking at, why is that rainbow open? What's that from? I'm looking over here. I'm serious. It's like I don't see color, and then I look up and I'm seeing color.
Really?
It's a reflection of something off of something. I don't know why, but it's on my TV screen, and I have two like Anne Marie, I'll take a picture of it. Like right down. This is like,
Wow.
I don't see color. And
And
like,
there it is.
it's like,
That's
oh,
amazing.
it's just like, it's not, it's just a reflection, but it's like of something. But
Somebody's telling you otherwise.
Yep.
yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny. What the heck?
That's cute.
Like, where did that come from? I don't know. It's just like it's not some psychic thing or anything. It's just coincidence. I think. It's like, well,
Right.
I just sent it to you, Anne Marie.
There's no coincidence.
Yeah, I know. Who knows? Anyway, so
Awesome.
so I'm
Kelvin,
open
thank
to the
you.
possibility of seeing colors, but I'm not going to walk around going, "Oh, am I seeing colors? Am I seeing colors? Am I seeing colors?"
Right.
That's
Right.
what I mean. Because that controlling of you trying to look for purple, that's going to shut your mind down. You see, it's just like
Right.
living with yourself, right? Just be open, but it does inform you something about yourself, which I think is really an expanded
Exciting.
kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
think
Thank you.
You're welcome. See, it wasn't
That's a
that
great
weird.
picture, Kelvin. I think I see Carol's image in there somewhere.
You see that?
Uh-oh.
That's awesome
Uh-oh.
because the television is off.
No, television's completely off, but it's a reflection of something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
Marie, it's not me. Tell me it's not me.
It's Carol. I can see her image.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it does look like it. No, it
Oh, I'm
doesn't.
gonna fucking die. in Florida.
That's your light reflecting, Kelvin.
Yeah, right. I don't know. It's a light of some sort reflecting
Yeah,
off of my TV.
that's
It's
funny.
like, whatever. It's fine.
Well, I guess I have more of like a discussion point than a question.
Yeah.
Excuse my coughing. I've just been kind of coughing all weekend here, but um since we're all bereaved parents and a lot of us start to hear our children, um I guess it would be kind of interesting to discuss. I mean, like, I know I've asked my son questions before and I've gotten the response from him, Mom, I'm dead. I'm not all knowing. Like, I'm not wisdom, I can't tell
Right.
you everything. And I know there's quite a few that all of a sudden embrace the fact that this child is now their guidance and they'll do readings for other people through their child
Mm,
and say, my son says this, my son says that.
mm.
And that just kind of, I don't know, that's a big red flag for me because, I didn't listen to everything my son said when he was here. So when he's gone,
Exactly.
why am I going to listen to everything he says over there?
Exactly. That's
But
exactly right. Yeah.
quite a few do. And they hinge on, whatever their child says because they feel that now this is their guiding spirit on the other side. So I thought
Even
maybe
if
we could just talk
e-
about that.
Yeah, it's a really good point because it's whether it's your child or your grandmother or whether it's Jesus or whether it's Muhammad or in other words, whether it's some spiritual
Right.
teacher that you revere and respect, or whether it's an angel of this, this or that or whatever, it doesn't matter because even if, let's just say, I'll give it the most positive spin possible, okay? Even if what they're saying is accurate, let's say it is really accurate, it's right on, and it's externally corroborated by whatever, it's like it's accurate. So what, I say, it's your life that you need to live. It's not, you're not living your life through them. Everything that they say, even if it is accurate, that it's like you guys are parents, obviously, by definition you're parents, and so when you're raising a child, do you go around telling the child everything that they need to do? No, they need to figure things out and learn things by their own experience. And conversely, it's no different if they're on the other side and you're the parent on this side. You got to live your life. Doesn't matter, even if they're accurate. And I would say that they can't always be accurate because there's always free will operating and there's other minds that are influencing things. So nothing can be, foreseen absolutely accurately all the time. And so, but even if they're giving you helpful advice, ultimately it may be helpful at times, but ultimately we need to live our own lives as individual souls. and that they're not doing you a service. They're doing you a disservice, even if it's coming out of the goodness of their heart to give you advice about this and this and this and this.
Sure.
That's the thing. So it's not,
Makes sense.
it's not, I'm not even saying that it's bad, and the intention is bad. No, I'm saying even if the intention is good and it's loving, etc.,
Right.
it's still usurping. It's still taking away your power in a sense, to make that your own decisions. It's just the ultimate thing is, look, we get advice from I get advice from friends. I see Kelsey's got her hand up. We get advice from a lot of friends, and that's fine. But ultimately, what you need to decide is, do I listen to it or not? So it's the blind following thing that's not good.
Right.
That's the issue. That's where the rubber always meets. That's where the rubber meets the road all the time, is not to blindly follow any advice that anybody's giving you, whether it's from the other side or this side. We should never blindly follow anybody. Doesn't matter how spiritually advanced they may seem. Here's another point. Doesn't matter how powerful they may seem. Power and wisdom do not go together all the time. Sometimes they do, but not all the time. And so just because somebody is powerful does not mean that they're wise. We see it's played out in world politics all the time. Powerful leaders of country are not necessarily wise in the decisions that they make. Okay?
Right.
Some of them are, some are. Not all are. So power does not equate to wisdom. Okay?
Got it.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Kelsey.
Yes. So I was just going to ask, like, my daughter passed away last year when she was stillborn, obviously. So she was a baby. And so I guess my question is just like, how does that work transitioning to the other side? Like her mental capacity and like her experience and things like that. And like, could her being an infant, like, could that be part of the reason why I don't seem to hear from her or have these experiences like some other people do? Or is that something like that I'm just like not in tuned enough to? And then I also wanted to ask you, I know you've mentioned before that like babies can come back to the same family. And I didn't know like, why would they or why would they not, and how would we know that, or if it is a different baby soul, whatever, and like, is it only babies that come back into our lives like that? So those are just a couple questions I have.
You keep track of whether I'm answering them all. Okay, so let's work backwards. We'll talk about the baby one first. First of all, babies can come back or not come back into the same family. It's really a decision that they're making on their own, whether they want to or not. And they don't have to be babies. It could be your grandmother could come back as a baby into your family too, or it could be a friend, or it could be a stranger who wants to meet you could come in as your baby. So there's a lot. Any of those are possible. Okay, any of the above. All right. There's no there's no prescription of oh, it's got to be this way or it's got to be that way. How can you tell if it's your baby or not? You look for personality things. What kind of personality traits did you happen to notice with the baby before the baby died? It's tougher with a baby. It's easier to notice personality traits as with an older child, obviously, right? So that's what you would look for, is because the personality tends to continue from lifetime to lifetime, especially for such a close lifetime. In other words, as opposed to a lifetime from 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 years ago compared to today. Their personality, my experiences and my personality still continue over many, many thousands of lives. I mean, thousands of years, but especially more likely in a lifetime that close. What was your first part of your question, Kelsey?
Just like her being a baby when she passed, like how does that, her experience and her mental capacity, like what she knows and how she experiences things?
Yeah, the fact that she's a baby is a physical thing. It's less so a mental thing. Yes, it's mental to some degree because she has to navigate the physical world and learn how to physically navigate the world when she's a physical, whenever a baby is a baby. Okay. But the mind because obviously when she dies, she doesn't have the physical body anymore by definition. And so she is a mind that's continuing. And therefore, that mind that is continuing, there's not like a baby mind. Okay.
Yeah.
There's baby awareness of how to operate a physical body, yes, but there's not a baby mind on the other side. Her mind is her mind.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so that personality, if there's any recognition of certain traits, you would see that would continue for her on the other side. Now, to your question about why hasn't she not communicated, et cetera, there's a billion different possible reasons. I mean, it could be that she's just on the other side with so many, friends and loved ones who she recognized from this lifetime and from other lifetimes. So you got to remember. So you've been her parent, obviously, this lifetime, most recent one, but she has parents from other lifetimes and siblings and so forth from other lifetimes who have greeted her and helped her acclimate on the other side. And so she might be just hanging out with them. And now she could be communicating with you, and it could be, like you say, maybe it's you, your antenna are not receiving the radio waves, or the air, the cell phone waves, or whatever you want to call it, from her mind, which is also sending out these messages and so forth. That is possible. So there's so many different possible reasons here. It's impossible to identify, oh, it's this or whatever. The other possibility is another possibility, another one of the many possibilities, is that she's not really acclimated enough yet and familiar with how to communicate with you from that side to this side. Sometimes it takes a while for minds to get familiar with how to do that. Some of them never get really comfortable with it. Some of them just don't, because they have a fear blocking them. And like, for example, I'm just going to tell you one possible, I don't know if I'm just giving you, this is all conjecture. This is not directed to you specifically, Kelsey, about your daughter. I'm just giving you generalities, okay? But it could be that, sometimes people, I've seen this happen in other situations where the person is so uncomfortable with communicating from that side to this side because they have this unfounded fear, which is illogical, but a lot of fears are illogical, where they're worried that, oh, if I'm going to communicate with people on earth and I might fall back in and I don't want to go back there right away or whatever, it's just an unfounded fear. In other words, it's baseless. It's not based in reality, but they have that fear. And so that would, I've seen that prevent people from communicating easily from the other side, So it's just so many different possibilities. It's kind of a waste of time really to try to figure it out, All you can do is make yourself as open, as receptive as possible. That's the best thing that you can do, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Kelsey, have we talked? Are you the same Kelsey I've talked to before?
Yes.
Okay, good to hear you again. Okay.
Yeah, you too.
Yep. Anything else?
Denise, did you have your hand up?
I just joined, so I'm not sure what all's been asked, but is there such thing as too soon to go see a medium, or seeing them too often, or will they all have the same things to say?
No. So first of all, there's not a too soon. That's a personal thing between you and yourself. You got to decide that. Are you ready to hear stuff and so forth, or are you still feeling a little overwhelmed by whatever the death of your child and so forth? So that's a highly personal thing. So you got to decide that. Are they all going to say the same thing? No, they're not all going to say the same thing. They may get different ones may get different information. They may get similar information. It's hard to tell, but you got to decide. That's what we talk. You can watch the recording afterwards, but my whole thing today was kind of giving you points to ask yourself and perspectives to look at this through, and then ask yourself, this question and this question, and then you decide whether you want to see a medium or not. So I was not saying today that you should go or you should not go, but here's some issues to kind of doing issue spotting, we call it, in order for you to ask yourself about, whoa, what about this and what about that? And let me think about that. And then you're kind of going more as as you kind of informed yourself before you go as to why you're going and who you're going to, and how to select somebody who who you feel will be more useful and helpful for you, because that's the ideal, right? So that's what we kind of talked about earlier. Does that help?
Yeah, is there such thing as going to too many times?
Too many times, yeah. So yeah, we talked about that, about how you don't want to become dependent on a medium, and it could get very expensive for one thing, but also more importantly to me, it's that you don't want to be divesting your power, giving your power away so much, because you want to take some workshops or something that there are people out there. I don't do this anymore, but who can teach you how to open up more yourself, so that you can be increase the probability that you could communicate directly with your loved one. And I'm not saying this, those of you who are maybe mediums watching this, I'm not trying to take business away from you, but it's just a useful thing, because as somebody who's lost a loved one, you want to try to have fewer filters, as the way I describe it, fewer filters between you and your loved one. And then, obviously, you directly communicating with them would be the ideal. We talked a little bit about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Good. Anybody else? Carmen? Are you good?
So here's the other thing.
Can you unmute? Oh, there you go.
I'm good.
There you
Good?
are.
You're good. Okay, good. So let me say this, Anne-Marie, to everybody. I do a free phone session with people about anything. And that's like,
Right.
maybe not anything, but anything that's in the spiritual realm, that work that I do. So literally do a free session. So if you want to ask me a question privately or whatever, just make a session, a calendar, an appointment with me. Go on my website, tell me the time zone you're in. You'll see there's a time zone thing there. And then, say, hey, I want to schedule a session, and I'd like to ask you some questions about something. So that's fine. I do that for free. It's part of my nonprofit work. So I teach meditation, as you guys know, and that will help open you up to the other side. But also I do afterlife classes, and I help people with death and dying issues. So any of the above, any kind of spiritual questions you have that you want to ask, just make an appointment. Part of my nonprofit work, I do free phone session with people, or a Zoom session if you want to do a Zoom, especially for those who are living in other parts of the world, so you don't have to pay for a phone call. Okay.
You are awesome, Kelvin.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I have a new book coming out in March, March 6th. It'll be available on Amazon. It's called Marcus Aurelius Updated, 21st Century Meditations on Living Life. So it's to help people, it's to give people tips. There are 67 very short essays that I've written that are compiled into 4 different categories: emotions, life principles, meditation, and the spiritual. So each of those 4 categories has anywhere from 12 to 24 short, like 1-page essays, easy to read, that are on certain subjects: love and forgiveness and free will and destiny and so forth. That'll be coming out in March, as I said, on Amazon, ebook and a paperback version. So that's my second book that'll be coming out. You guys have already seen my first book on overcoming the fear of death, right? So my sequel to this book is going to be my third book. For those of you who have read my first book, and where's the sequel to this one that you talk about in this book? Sorry about that. It'll be coming. That's going to be my third book. Okay.
Very nice. Maybe once it comes out, you can give Anne-Marie like a little reminder, and she can put it on the page for us.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
It would be nice also to do maybe a book club if we would like to do that, because we have talked about that before,
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
and invite you to speak with us
Yeah.
about.
Read the book and then let's talk about it. Kind of. A thing.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Go ahead, Olga. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, that was fine. I was just saying as a reminder, he can just send you the info and you can put it on there and stuff. But yeah, I just, I'm very happy. And Elisa's favorite color was purple, and you saw purple in the rainbow. So I don't know, but
Yeah.
well, thank you very much for all you do for us and sharing your wisdom with us.
Very welcome. Good to see everybody here.
Thank you, Kelvin.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope you feel better, Anne Marie.
Yes, Anne Marie.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Get some
Bye.
rest.
Get some tequila shots or something to help you with that cough
Yeah.
Oh, that's a thought. I think I'll meditate instead.
with lots of lemon.
Meditate extra.
I'll meditate extra.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Well, healing prayers. Love to all of you guys. Thank you.
You
Bye
guys.
bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.